On October 12, 1972, the Old Christians Club rugby team, friends, family, and 5 crew members boarded a twin-engined Fairchild FH-227D aircraft. Excited to play a match in Santiago, Chile, they were unaware of the impending disaster. Chartering the plane was expensive, so many team members invited loved ones to split the costs. However, heavy weather forced the plane to divert and land in Mendoza, Argentina. The group stayed overnight, confident the storm would pass. On October 13th at 2 p.m., they took off again, but the aircraft's underpowered engines made crossing the Andes risky. The experienced pilot, Colonel Julio Cesar Ferrada, had crossed the Andes nearly 30 times, while his less familiar co-pilot, Lieutenant Colonel Dante Laguarara, was less experienced. They planned a U-shaped path over the Planchon Pass volcano to give the plane enough clearance. No one aboard could have guessed that this decision, combined with a deadly navigational error, would lead them into the heart of disaster. As the flight neared the Andes, clouds and poor visibility obscured the pilot's view. Laguarara, relying on instruments and rough estimates, radioed Chilean air traffic control, reporting that they had crossed the mountains. In reality, they were still deep within them. Believing they were over Chile, he requested permission to descend. Air traffic control granted the request, unaware of the deadly mistake. The plane began descending, but instead of approaching Santiago, it was diving toward jagged mountain peaks. Passengers peered out the windows, seeing snow-capped ridges rising ominously close. At first, they thought it was normal, even joking about the turbulence. But the pilots knew they were in grave danger. Ferrada tried desperately to climb, pushing the engines to maximum power. But it was too late. The tail of the aircraft clipped a mountain peak. Moments later, the right wing smashed into another ridge, tearing away completely. The tail section ripped off, hurling 3 passengers and 2 crew members into the open sky. Another violent impact tore away the left wing. What remained of the fuselage shot like a missile down a steep snow-covered slope, traveling at over 200 miles per hour. Seats broke free from the floor, passengers still strapped in, slamming into each other like rag dolls. Finally, the battered fuselage came to a sudden stop on a snowbank at 11,800 feet above sea level. 12 people were dead. 33 others were injured, some critically. The pilots were among the dead. Those who survived staggered from the wreckage, dazed and shivering, staring out at an endless expanse of white. The survivors quickly realized how dire their situation was. They were trapped in one of the most remote and inhospitable regions of the Andes. Temperatures dropped well below freezing at night. They had no winter clothing, no proper medical supplies, and almost no food. The fuselage provided minimal shelter. Inside, the survivors organized themselves, tending to the injured and salvaging what little remained. A few bottles of wine, some chocolate, and a handful of snacks. These meager rations were divided carefully, but it was clear they wouldn't last long. Among the survivors was 19-year-old medical student Roberto Canessa, who quickly took charge of tending to the wounded. Rugby player Nando Parado, who lost his mother in the crash and watched his sister die days later, also emerged as a key figure. Both men played crucial roles in the group's survival. Initially, the survivors believed rescue was imminent. They found a transistor radio in the wreckage and repaired it using wire scavenged from the plane. However, on the 11th day, they received the devastating news that the official search had been called off. Authorities believed no one could still be alive. With no help coming and their food gone, the survivors faced an impossible decision: starve to death or do the unthinkable. Surrounded by snow and ice, there was no food to forage. Their only hope was the bodies of the dead. At first, they refused to consider it, but as starvation set in, they began to pray for forgiveness and permission from their fallen friends. When the time came, They used a shard of glass to cut flesh into thin strips, which froze instantly in the mountain air. Canessa, sensing their hesitation, took the first bite. Others followed reluctantly. It was a desperate act of honoring the dead by using their bodies to give life to the living. Yet, even this macabre food source could only sustain them for so long. They knew someone would have to go for help. In mid-December, after 2 months in the mountains, Nando Parado and Roberto Canessa prepared for a final attempt to find civilization. Along with teammate Antonio Vizintin, they fashioned crude sleeping bags from insulation and seat covers, packed what little food they had left, and set off eastward. For 10 days, they climbed icy peaks and traversed endless valleys, enduring blizzards, frostbite, and exhaustion. Antonio eventually had to turn back, but Nando and Roberto pressed on, fueled by sheer willpower. Finally, on December 20th, they spotted a river valley with signs of human activity. Across the river, they saw a group of Chilean herdsmen. They shouted, but the roar of the river drowned them out. Thinking quickly, they wrapped a message in paper, tied it to a rock, and threw it across. The herdsmen read their plea for help and signaled that they would return the next day. That night, Nando and Roberto waited on the riverbank, too weak to move but burning with hope. True to their word, the herdsmen returned with food and rode to the nearest village to alert authorities. The next day, helicopters were dispatched to rescue the remaining survivors still clinging to life at the crash site. On December 22, 1972, 72 days after the crash, the nightmare was finally over. 16 men were brought back from the dead. The story made international headlines. Newspapers called it a miracle. But as details emerged about the cannibalism, the tone shifted. Some outlets falsely claimed the survivors had killed each other for food. Sensational photos of body parts found at the crash site only fueled the controversy. The survivors were forced to publicly defend themselves, explaining the pact they had made and the steps they took to ensure consent from the dead. Gradually, public opinion softened. Most came to see the men not as monsters but as heroes who had done whatever it took to survive. Today, the crash site has become a place of pilgrimage. Visitors hike into the mountains to pay their respects at a memorial to the 29 people who died. For the survivors, life after the Andes was never the same. Many went on to become motivational speakers, doctors, and community leaders. If you found this story compelling, consider sharing it with others. Subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into true stories of survival, mystery, and human endurance. As always, stay curious and stay safe.